Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into the film and TV industry today with a whole stack of news from Further and Better's TV, Film and Media Industry International News Roundup, specifically from the weekend of February 8th and 9th, 2025. Trust me, some really interesting stuff is going on.
Oh yeah, definitely a fascinating time to be following all of it.
Totally. Okay, let's jump right in with this group of articles about UK broadcasting. They paint, well, a pretty dramatic picture.
It is a serious shakeup. UK broadcasters are cutting back, pulling back from those big, splashy, big budget TV shows, the ones they used to, be known for.
Right, like those were their signature for a long time.
Exactly. So we're seeing a 25% drop in what they call high-end TV, which is basically all those like fancy dramas, the prestige shows.
Wow, 25%, that's a serious decrease. Rising production costs, I'm guessing.
Definitely a factor. And then you layer on the competition from, well, all those US streamers with their giant budgets. It all adds up.
Yeah, they just keep getting bigger and bigger. But wait a minute, I'm seeing here that even with that decrease, total spending in the UK on this high-end TV is actually up by 11%, reaching $3.44 billion. So how does that work? If UK broadcasters are cutting back, who's spending all this money?
It's the US streamers picking up the slack. Netflix, Disney, Amazon, all the big names. They're putting in a record £2.82 billion into British content. Makes sense, right? They need new shows.
Sure, fresh stories, something to attract that global audience.
Exactly. And UK production companies are just, really good at that. They've got the talent and the experience.
So on one hand, great, right? More money flowing into the UK industry. But is there a downside? Do you think this shift in power, like who controls the money, could have some unintended consequences?
It's definitely a double-edged sword. More investment is good, but what about creative control? What if it comes at the cost of being able to tell those uniquely British stories, the ones that really resonate with audiences? That's a potential problem.
It is. Like we could end up with a kind of homogenization of content where everything starts to look and feel the same.
Right, and that would be a loss, a real loss, for everyone, really.
Definitely something to keep an eye on how this all develops. And it makes you wonder, right, how this power dynamic will play out in other markets as streaming just keeps growing.
Oh, absolutely. The battle for those eyeballs, those global viewers, it's only going to intensify.
It's a worldwide competition. And speaking of competition, things are heating up in the video podcast world. YouTube's making some moves. Seems like they're taking aim at Spotify.
They're going all in on video podcasts, like really cementing that NFL partnership. And they even replaced TikTok as the official sponsor for the Super Bowl LAX tailgate concert. It's a statement.
Yeah, no kidding. A big statement. And now there are even rumors that Netflix is trying to, poach, get some of those top YouTubers to sign exclusive deals.
It tells you something, right? Video is becoming, the big thing, the dominant force in the podcasting world.
Right, and it makes sense. Visual content, it grabs you, keeps you engaged.
And these platforms, they're fighting for the creators, the ones who can bring in the viewers, the ones who drive engagement. It's all about eyeballs, ultimately.
It is. It's a business.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what happens to those traditional audio-only podcasts? Do they just fade away, or do they have to, adapt?
It's a fascinating question. We might see some merging, right? Like maybe audio podcasts find ways to incorporate video elements.
Right, to kind of stay relevant, stay in the game.
Exactly. It's all about evolving.
Now, for a specific example of, a YouTuber navigating this whole landscape, let's talk about Mr. Beast. Huge YouTube star, millions of followers. He recently starred in Amazon's Beast Games, and it was a hit, like a massive hit. 50 million viewers in 25 days. #1 on Prime Video in 80 countries.
Yeah, those are impressive numbers on the surface, but it's a little more complicated than that.
Really? How so?
Well, analysts are calling the show's impact, how it actually affected things. They're calling it middling. Like, even though millions watched, engagement was low, it didn't really translate into a big boost for his YouTube channel.
So the views, the numbers, they're not the whole story.
Right. There's speculation that maybe Amazon's investment in this Beast Games thing was more about, strategic growth in India.
India, huge market.
Exactly. So maybe they're playing the long game here, building a presence in these key international markets.
So it's about more than just the raw numbers. It's about understanding the audience and what they're looking for.
It's about the big picture.
And speaking of global reach, let's look at Sweden. Their streaming market is, booming right now.
It's off the charts. Swedish households are subscribing to, get this, an average of 2.7 paid streaming services.
Wow. That's a lot of streaming. And it's not just Netflix driving that growth, right?
Nope. Prime Video and Sky Showtime are making big gains there. Shows that even the established players, they can't just sit back and relax. They have to keep innovating.
Keep things fresh, keep people coming back. It's a tough business. And, with all this talk about change, makes you wonder, what does it take to actually succeed in Hollywood these days? We have an article here that says personal branding, like really building your own personal brand, is more important than ever. What do you think?
It makes sense. The old days, actors, filmmakers, they could rely on those studio connections, those affiliations to build their career. But those studios, they're not as powerful as they used to be. So you have to stand out. You have to create your own brand.
So it's not enough to just be talented. You have to be like a marketing guru too.
It's about knowing what makes you special, what you're good at, finding your niche and owning it.
Find your superpower, right? Like what sets you apart.
Exactly. You have to tell your own story and make sure people are listening.
And speaking of stories, it's so great to see all these diverse and, really interesting projects coming out right now. There are a few that I'm really excited about.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about them. Always on the lookout for fresh perspectives.
Well, there's Virdee, a BBC crime drama, and it features a South Asian lead detective. It's based on a book series, and it sounds really good, like a really compelling story.
Crime dramas, they're always popular, and it's great to see a show with a South Asian lead. It's a sign that things are, slowly changing, becoming more representative.
Exactly. And then there's a new Paolo Sorrentino film, Parthenope, and it's a coming-of-age story. But what's interesting is that it features a female protagonist, which is rare for him.
He's known for those male-centric films, yeah.
Right, so this one's a bit of a departure, and it just shows, how the demand for different perspectives, different stories is growing.
And that's a good thing, right? More voices, more perspectives. It enriches the whole landscape.
Absolutely. And then there's this documentary, Porcelain War, about the war in Ukraine, but it was co-directed remotely. One director was in Kharkiv, and the other was in Los Angeles.
Wow, that's amazing. Filmmaking, it really can transcend borders, can it?
It really can. And then there's this production company, the World We Want Studios, and they're doing some really amazing work producing these purpose-driven projects, and they've got some big names attached, like Johnny Depp and Al Pacino.
Using star power for good, that's always encouraging.
It is. It shows that entertainment can be a force for positive change, which is really inspiring. So, looking at all of this, it feels like we're at a real turning point in the industry, wouldn't you say?
It does. There's this feeling of, evolution, experimentation in the air. It's exciting, but also a little unpredictable.
Definitely unpredictable. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll delve even deeper into what's happening in film and television.
It's a wild time to be in the industry, that's for sure.
It is. And with change comes opportunity, right? Like we see some actors taking on roles behind the scenes now, too. Like this bit about Noah Centineo. He's moving on from those Netflix rom-coms.
Yeah. Going from heartthrob to, action hero in season 2 of The Recruit.
It's quite a leap.
But he's not stopping there. He's also producing now through his company, Arkham Productions. Smart move, using that star power to get more creative control.
Yeah, build his own brand. Be more than just an actor.
Exactly. And we're seeing this more and more. Actors becoming what they call multi-hyphenates, developing projects, shaping their own careers.
Taking control? It's pretty cool to see.
It really is. The industry is changing, and they're changing with it.
And it's not just actors, right? There's a whole world of talented people behind the scenes. The composers, the editors, everyone who makes those stories come alive. Like this piece about the composer for The Wild Robot, the animated film. People were in tears listening to his score.
Music is so powerful, it can really elevate a scene.
Yeah, it's like that secret ingredient that adds so much depth and emotion.
The composer's like a chef, blending all those notes and instruments to create this whole symphony of emotion. You know what I mean?
I do. It's a great analogy. And speaking of masterful storytelling, this article about Walter Salle's film, I'm Still Here, caught my eye.
Oh, yeah. That historical drama set in Rio. What about it?
It talks about this one particular scene, the moments before a former congressman is taken by the military police. Never seen again.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
It is. And apparently the way Salles builds the suspense, it's incredible. It goes from these warm family moments to this feeling of dread, like something terrible is about to happen.
Yeah.
Just masterful filmmaking.
It sounds intense.
It is.
Yeah.
But, it highlights how film can really transport us to different times and places and make us feel so connected to the characters. So powerful.
It really is. And speaking of connecting, let's talk about film festivals. They play such a crucial role, don't they?
Absolutely. They bring filmmakers and audiences together. There's so much energy at these festivals. What's been happening?
Well, at the Rotterdam Film Festival, a Croatian film, Fiumo Marte, won the big award, the Tiger Award. Really resonated with the jury.
That's awesome. Always love seeing films from different cultures getting recognized.
Me too. And then there's MIP London, one of the biggest TV markets in the world. A lot of buzz there about Paper Empire, an action drama series.
Ooh, tell me more about that one.
Well, it's got a huge cast: Wesley Snipes, Steve Guttenberg, Cuba Gooding Jr., Denise Richards, Kelsey Grammer, tons of big names. And the story's about this financial mastermind turned crypto fraudster. Sounds juicy.
Sounds like a wild ride. I'll have to check that one out. It's amazing how these markets really shape, what we end up watching.
It's true, they're kind of the gatekeepers, right? Deciding which stories get told, which ones get seen.
Yeah, and speaking of gatekeepers, we have to acknowledge the challenges that, independent filmmakers are facing. There's this piece here about the European film market, and it talks about how hard it is for indie films to get noticed.
It is. They don't have the same marketing budgets as those big studio productions.
Right, it's a tough landscape. But those indie films are so important. They bring us fresh perspectives, new voices. We need those stories.
I agree. Absolutely crucial to support independent filmmakers.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the Berlin International Film Festival, or the Berlinale, coming up soon.
The Berlinale, one of the most prestigious festivals in the world, always a great lineup.
What are you looking forward to?
Richard Linklater has a new film, Blue Moon, starring Ethan Hawke and Margaret Qualley. Linklater's such a talented filmmaker.
Yeah, he really is. I'm curious about that one.
And then there's Hot Milk by Rebecca Lenkovich, starring Emma Mackey and Fiona Shaw. A lot of buzz about that one.
Sounds like a good mix of films. And, no film festival is complete without a little bit of controversy.
Yeah.
This year, this documentary, Better Off Dead, which explores assisted suicide, a very sensitive topic.
It is. And, it's been praised for its nuanced approach, very thought-provoking.
I'm always interested in films that tackle those tough topics, the ones that get people talking. It's important.
It is. All right, let's move on to some in-development news. There are some exciting projects brewing that caught my eye.
Oh, yeah. Give me a sneak peek behind the curtain.
Well, for fans of AI thrillers, Alignment is in the works, directed by Joe Wright, the guy who did Pride and Prejudice and Atonement.
Oh, wow. That's a big name. AI thrillers are definitely having a moment.
They are. And then there's Tinseltown, a Sky production starring Kiefer Sutherland and Rebel Wilson. A satirical take on Hollywood. Sounds hilarious.
Sutherland and Wilson. That's a pairing I wouldn't have expected, but I kind of love it. What else?
November 1963, about the JFK assassination, with John Travolta, Mandy Patinkin, and Dermot Mulroney. Big cast, serious subject matter.
Wow, that's a heavy one. But it's good to see films exploring those historical moments.
And get this. A Magic: The Gathering film is in the works, live action.
No way. I used to play that game all the time.
Me too. It's being developed by Legendary Entertainment and Hasbro. They're going all out, creating a whole Magic, The Gathering universe, film, TV, the whole deal.
That's huge. I'm curious to see how it turns out. Nostalgia's a powerful thing.
It is. But not all projects make it to the finish line. There was going to be a 6-part documentary about Prince, but it's been scrapped.
That's too bad. What happened?
Seems like creative differences between Netflix and Prince's estate. Now the estate is planning their own documentary. It happens sometimes, even with the best intentions.
It's a shame, but I understand wanting to protect his legacy, making sure it's done right.
Totally. Okay, on to some casting news. Owen Wilson and Alan Ritchson are teaming up for Runner, an action thriller directed by Scott Waugh.
Owen Wilson doing action. Didn't see that coming. What's it about?
Not a lot of details out there, but it involves a dangerous mission. Knowing Scott Waugh, it's going to be a wild ride.
I'm always up for a good action movie, especially with an unexpected cast like that.
Then there's The Nowhere Game, a thriller with Kiernan Shipka and McKenna Grace. Mysterious happenings in a small town.
Small town secrets, always a good premise.
And Mayor of Kingstown, the crime drama, is adding Edie Falco, Lenny James, and Laura Benanti to the cast for season 4. Talk about a power trio.
They did not mess around with that casting.
Wow. And Matthew McConaughey is going to play the leader of a peasant revolt in Rage, directed by Paul Greengrass, set in 1381.
Wow, that sounds intense. McConaughey and Greengrass, that's a combo I need to see.
All right, let's switch gears again and talk money. What's happening in the world of financing? Deals, acquisitions, all that good stuff.
Let's get into the business side of things.
Okay, so Film Constellation has acquired the international sales rights for Olmo, a film that's going to be at the Berlin Panorama section.
That's great for them, getting distribution before it even premieres.
Shows there's a lot of faith in the film. Amazon's making moves too. They're integrating MGM's international distribution into their own operation.
That's a big deal.
It is. It basically means Amazon can get MGM content out to a wider audience using their platform.
Makes sense. Amazon's really going for that global dominance. What else?
Paramount Pictures got financing for their upcoming film slate through a deal with Domain Capital. Good news means more movies are getting made.
More movies, more stories. I'm all for it.
A French distributor, Le Pacte, has acquired the rights for Mi Amour, a thriller starring Pom Klementieff. It's getting international attention.
Love that. More international films getting recognition.
Then there's One More Shot, a romantic comedy, which is going to be at SXSW, generating some buzz. And the documentary Better Off Dead has been picked up by several international distributors.
That's great to hear. That means more people will get to see and engage with that topic, which is so important.
It is. Now, let's talk Sundance. The acquisitions, the bidding wars, all the excitement.
Sundance is always a whirlwind. Everyone wants to find the next big hit.
Right. Neon, the company that distributed Parasite, they paid over $10 million for Together, directed by Dave Franco and starring Alison Brie.
Power couple, they're making some really interesting work.
Netflix picked up Train Dreams, an adaptation of a Dennis Johnson novella, for a high-teen million figure. And they also got Perfect Neighbor, a documentary that uses police body cam footage to tell this really raw story.
Wow, that sounds intense. Netflix really goes all in at Sundance.
They do. They also acquired Sorry Baby, a film by Eva Victor. Not much is known about it, but it must have been good to get picked up.
Sundance is always a launch pad for new talent. It's great to see.
And lastly, FX has renewed English Teacher, the comedy series, for a second season.
Oh, that's wonderful. I've heard good things about that show. What's it about?
It follows a high school teacher in Austin, Texas. It's funny, it's heartwarming, really relatable.
Sounds like a good one. I love those comedies that are both funny and have something to say.
Me too. Well, I think we've covered just about everything. The latest news, the big deals, the exciting projects on the horizon.
We've been through a lot, from global streaming to high school teachers in Texas. What do you think? What's the biggest takeaway from all of this?
It really is amazing. Like, the range of stories being told is incredible. We've got historical dramas, AI thrillers, documentaries about war, romantic comedies, you name it.
And it's not just the stories themselves, it's who's telling them, right? Actors are becoming producers, international filmmakers are getting more recognition. It's really changing. It feels like we're at this crossroads. You've got traditional media and digital platforms kind of merging, and the lines between genres, they're blurring. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is, but it's also really exciting. Like, all these possibilities are opening up. New ways to tell stories, new ways to connect with audiences.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the stories, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's the power of a good story. That's what really matters. Whether it's a drama or a comedy or a documentary, a good story can make you feel things, you know?
Absolutely. It connects us, makes us think, makes us feel less alone. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. So, I don't know about you, but after going through all this news, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the future of entertainment. There are challenges, sure, but there's also so much creativity and innovation happening.
I agree. It's an exciting time to be a part of it, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Who knows what amazing stories are waiting to be told.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of film and television. We'll be back soon with more news and insights, so stay tuned.
And until then, keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those creative sparks flying.